Here we go in 3, 2, 1.
What is up, folks? Welcome back to the Vol Talk podcast. I am here, and I am Blake, and he is here, and he is Austin. And folks, Austin, we won, and we're in.
Yes,
That's
sir.
what we said heading into Vandy week is you win and you're in, and we are in the college football playoff. It feels good, man.
Oh, yeah. It feels amazing, dude. We finally won a consequential game. First, outside of those Alabama games, dude, I don't know the last real consequential game we've won, frankly. And to be honest, 5 minutes into the game, I thought we blew another one. I thought it was over.
We'll talk about that. We will talk about the absolute roller coaster of emotions. BVS hit hard, very, very hard at the beginning of the game, really throughout the whole first quarter. And honestly, I honestly didn't even. Well, we'll talk about it. I didn't start feeling good until late in the third quarter. So BVS is strong with us. But hey, at the end of the day, we won, and it feels good. So, folks, welcome. We are doing the Vanderbilt review. The Tennessee Volunteers beat the Vanderbilt Commodores 36-23. And as we've been saying the past few episodes on this podcast, the Vols have secured a playoff spot. There's no way that they can be left out now at this point, especially with the chaos that has continued to ensue throughout college football. And so we're going to be talking about the game. We're going to be reviewing the game, again, including the roller coaster of emotions. We will probably get into a little bit of kind of the chaos, a little bit of kind of the outlook for the playoff, but we're going to save most of that for our upcoming live show. Y'all loved the live reaction. All 42 of you. We're up past 40 subs now, Austin, so we're excited about that. And y'all enjoyed, and we enjoyed the live reaction show with Dakota when they dropped the playoff rankings last week, this past Tuesday. And so we'll be doing that again this tomorrow. We'll be doing that live tomorrow. And so we hope y'all will join us for that. And then from there, the roadmap is we're gonna keep churning out some content for y'all each week so we can stay consistent. Again, we know all 42 of y'all are just gobbling up this Vol Talk content, and so we want to keep that content coming for y'all. But we'll have to wait and see who we're gonna end up playing. But again, Austin, at the end of the day, I'm pumped because even though I am again BVS is hitting. I'm worried about who we're going to play in the first round and if it's going to be at home or not. At the end of the day, we clinched a playoff berth, and that feels really good. And so, kind of talk to me about just the kind of at the end of the game, right? We'll talk about at the beginning of the game in a minute, but just at the end of the game, that feeling of man, we're in the playoff.
It was mostly a feeling of relief that we actually won the game. And I was for sure happy about it, but again, it was mostly relief that because at the end of the day, it was Vanderbilt, and we should win that game. We should win that game every single season. Again, in past years we didn't get the job done in games like that, so it was nice to finally get the job done. And it is, it's historic, dude. It's the first 12-team playoff. The 14 playoff was a playoff, but it wasn't a true playoff. It was, but this 12-team, it's the first real bracket. It's the first real playoff system in college football, and we made the inaugural 12-team playoff. So it is a historic moment, dude. It was a huge accomplishment in Josh Heupel's career. Yet another kind of stepping stone in what he's building. Who knows what the ceiling is yet? A lot of people are, don't think the ceiling is, elite coach, but we'll see. He has an opportunity now to play for a national championship at the end of the day. That's what the 12-team playoff represents. You have an opportunity to compete for a national championship. So it's huge for the program, and it's nuts, dude. If you think about Tennessee sports as a whole, what we've accomplished as an athletic department over the last 12 months, you have the Elite Eight appearance in basketball. Should have been Final Four if Foul Ming didn't strike again. But anyway, and then the national championship in baseball, and now college football playoff in football, dude. It's just maybe possibly the greatest 12 months in our program's like in the athletic department's history, dude. It's unbelievable what Tennessee's accomplished, and we're not done yet, baby. We ain't done yet.
We ain't done yet. Man. The future is bright.
Yeah, we'll see what we can accomplish in the playoffs. So.
Exactly. Because obviously we don't want to just get in. We want to get in and win. We want to, make a run in the playoff and compete for a national championship. But you're right, man. Just Tennessee athletics in general. What a time to be a Vol fan. Truly is an everything school. Everyone's seen those. I guess you wouldn't necessarily call them memes, but the posts going around where it's like, here's a complete and exhaustive list of the schools in the country who have a top 10 football program and basketball program. Tennessee. That's it. That's the list, and that's not even to mention the fact that, like you said, we're reigning national champions in baseball.
Also, you may not know this, brother, but you might not have been following Vol hockey, but we're number 4 in the country in hockey. So, just throwing it out there.
Shout out to Vol hockey. And man, the Vol rugby team is always a great rugby team. Shout out to the Ruggers out there, man. It was a few years ago that the Tennessee Vols won the national championship in rugby. And so, I mean, shoot, when you're when you're in an SEC school and you're going as deep as being top 5 in the country in hockey and rugby, your athletic program is doing something right. Man, what a time it is to be a Tennessee sports fan, for sure. But you hit the nail on the head, and Phil, it's a monumental moment for Josh Heupel. And talking about Josh Heupel, maybe I'll use this as a segue to talk about my main takeaway from the game. And so when it comes to Heupel, what's his ceiling, all that. Heupel talks a lot to the team, and we've talked a lot about how good teams get better, right, throughout the season. Well, that's the same in anything. A good coach also gets better, right? And so if Heupel is an elite coach, or can be an elite coach, it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be his best right now. He should continually get better and improve and evolve as a coach, right? That was ultimately what led to Philip Fulmer leaving the program, is he wasn't really evolving, right? He wasn't really getting better. He was starting to regress. He wasn't evolving with the game. And so, if Heupel can continue to get better, and one thing that talking about my main takeaway from the game, one thing that I was pleased with Heupel and the team in general is how they responded to the adversity, right? You come out in the game and you're down, and literally virtually immediately you're down 14-0 in the first quarter against a good scrappy Vanderbilt team, as we've talked about, in Nashville. Now, granted, everyone saw the pictures. We had plenty of it wasn't really an away game, but still, it's like you've talked about. It's not your stadium. You're not used to the setting. All that stuff plays a factor, right? And you get in there and you're down 14-0. And you and I, we were talking about at the top of the show that BVS sets in, and we're like, oh, it's done. It's over. And I was questioning the competitiveness of these players and Heupel. It's like, man, this is the biggest moment of y'all's career so far. And this is how you're coming out and you're responding flat. But then they proved me wrong, right? They responded to that adversity. They came back and they drubbed Vanderbilt, as they should have, as this team should have. This team should always have absolutely drubbed Vanderbilt, and they came back and they did it. And to me, that was a good sign.
Yeah, definitely. Going back to Heupel, he's only the 3rd coach in the history of the program to have 10 regular season wins. The list is General Neyland, or 10 regular season wins multiple times. The list is obviously General Neyland, Philip Fulmer, and Josh Heupel. So
that's pretty elite company.
Exactly. So a pretty elite list, and so hopefully Heupel could continue to build. But yeah, going into the game, dude, the opening kickoff is taken back by Vanderbilt, and I'm just like, here we go. Here we go. It's like classic Tennessee. And it was bad. The special teams was terrible all day. They kept kicking to the guy, and I was getting irritated. It's like, dude, kick it out of bounds. Like, just give him the ball at the 35. I'd rather that happen than him take it back almost every time. So special teams has to get better. So anyway, they take the opening kickoff back, and then DeSamp fumbles. And man, I feel like DeSamp has like something in his head right now because if I'm not mistaken, dude, his fumbling problem has always happened on like the first drive of the game. It's felt like. I believe that's what happened in the Alabama game. We were driving down and he fumbled on the first drive, and the exact same thing happened in this game. He fumbles on the first drive. It's just like something in his head. It's so odd. But other than that, he was fantastic in the game. But yeah, and we fumble, they get the ball, we can't get off the field on defense, and they get up 14-0. And like you said, dude, I mean, my wife had to talk me off a ledge, bro. I was not doing well. I was not doing well because it's just like, really, like you had like everything was on the line, and you're gonna blow it. But then, dude, Nico and the offense responded. I mean, the very next drive, we get backed up in a 3rd and 14, and I believe it's what changed the game. That 3rd and 14 throw. Now, I have to give credit to the O-line. Nico was protected well all day long. He had so much time to throw in that game, or in the game, and specifically on that 3rd and 14 play that kept that drive alive when you're down 14-0, and that ensuing touchdown was colossal, dude. I mean, if we don't score on that drive, who knows? Like, football is such a game of momentum. You never know what can happen if you don't take advantage of that and go down and score there, and how the game could have gotten out of hand at that point. And then the defense started to respond, dude. I mean, the defense started to respond. They really held Pavia in check. He had some nice runs in there, but, I mean, passing-wise, I mean, we were suffocating on defense. Have to get into the McCoy pick. That was early in the game that, again, started to turn around the game. And, I mean, that was one of the most insane interceptions I've ever seen. There's, like, literally a screenshot of him like facing the ground and the ball's in the air on top of him, and somehow that play ended up being an interception. It's just like the guy, I mean, at this point, man, we're going to have the end of this. Whenever our season ends, we're going to have our end of the season rewards. And dude, to me, our best player award at this point, I know DeSamp has done all these great things. He's broken all these great records. Dude, to me, it's Jermon McCoy, dude. I mean, he has been unbelievable this season. They put him on an island, many plays in man coverage, and he's just made so many great plays like that. I mean, he had that play, which, again, our season's on the line, dude. It might be Vanderbilt. Yeah, that's all fine and well. It's not Alabama. It's not Georgia. Our season's on the line. It's a postseason game for the Vols. And to make a play like that, to save a touchdown, I mean, when the game could have gotten out of hand. It was an unbelievable play. And obviously he did that in the Alabama game. I mean, there's been so many plays he's made this season at such a difficult position. Outside of quarterback, cornerback is the hardest position to play. So he's just been phenomenal, man. And then, like you said, we just kind of started rolling from there. I mean, defense started dominating, offense dominated. And we end up doing, like you said, what we need to do, and beat Vanderbilt down, because even though Vanderbilt and Clark Lee are, like you said, you used a great word, scrappy. They've been scrappy all year. They play with so much heart. I actually really like Clark Lee, dude, their coach. I mean, their coach is an awesome dude. And just like, I mean, you got to respect that team and the way they've played this year with the amount of talent they have, which is, let's be honest, not that much. But yeah, man, we got the job done. So I'm really excited about that, and we'll see what we can do going from into the playoffs.
Yeah, again, like you said, mad respect, to Lee and Pavia and that entire team. No hate towards Vanderbilt. I mean, they, and I hate to hit them with a Butch Jonesism, because I don't think there's any necessarily moral victories, right? You want to actually win. But I mean, like you said, for the amount of talent that they have, they should be proud of themselves in that season. But man, what a way, like we've said, this is Tennessee Volunteer football. We should beat down Vanderbilt no matter how scrappy they are, especially when a trip to the playoff is on the line. And that's what happened is, again, after that initial adversity, the players responded. And to me, again, that's a big a big moment for Josh Heupel, that he was able to get this team to respond to adversity, that he was able to, coach his way out of that deficit. And the players, Jermon McCoy, like you said, and Nico, uh, and the receiving core, especially Dante Thornton. I mean, once again, Dante Thornton, what an absolute dog, came up huge for us. And so these players, that's what I was looking for, is the players to respond and, like you said, make these big, huge plays, these pivotal plays when the season is on the line. Jermon McCoy went out and did that. Nico went out and did that.
He did.
Thornton. I mean, and again, we went. If y'all don't necessarily need to go back and watch it, we just we went live to try to celebrate after the Vanderbilt win. We went live for just a few minutes. You don't necessarily need to go back and watch it, but in that live reaction, we shouted out Dylan Sampson. He broke yet another record. And he had over 170 rushing yards, which broke the single season rushing record that was held by Travis Stevens.
Mm-hmm.
So Sampson came up big again, and so again, these players responded, made big plays when it was when they needed to, instead of letting that adversity get to them, and because it very, like you said, it very could have gone the other way if Vanderbilt had kept the momentum, if we hadn't got those momentum swings, because that's what college football is. If a team, no matter how under talented they are, if they have the momentum, and if they hold on to that advantage throughout the game, then they can win the game. I mean, look at Georgia. Georgia almost lost at Georgia Tech. No one can tell me that the talent is anywhere near each other between those two teams. But Georgia Tech came out to play, and Georgia almost dropped a game to Georgia Tech, and that very could have easily been us. I mean, you look at, and we'll talk a little bit maybe about the chaos from this past week, but there were several teams, again, that dropped games to teams that they shouldn't have lost to. Ohio State, Michigan comes to mind. And so it could have been us, but it wasn't, because the players responded. And so huge shout out to them. And that's what I was most pleased with from the game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, going back to Dante Thornton, yeah, dude, he's such an asset. He did get hurt in the game. He's really been banged up all year. I'd be fascinated to see, like, we are not going to see it, because I believe he's leaving after the season. But if he was healthy all season, man, he would have put up monster numbers, dude. When he's been healthy and playing, he has been elite, and he has to be healthy for the playoffs. He's really been, I love Brew. Brew's like a different kind of player, but Dante's really been the guy, like the explosive weapon on offense, and we're going to need that going into the postseason. You can clearly see Nico has a good rapport with Dante, so hopefully he's healthy. I mean, dude, he had like a Randy Moss stat line. He had 3 catches for like over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he was phenomenal. That first touchdown that he had in the game was so explosive. I mean, he could just caught it right over the middle and just outran everybody. So we'll see. We'll see if he can. We have 3 weeks to get healthy before the playoffs, so hopefully he can get healthy. Squirrel also went down with an injury, so we are starting to run out of receivers at this point. Brew was apparently hurt like pregame. I don't know how serious that is. Hopefully he's okay, because geez, if Squirrel, Brew, and Dante are out going into the postseason, dude, that's not good. That is not good. And that means Chaz Nimrod's getting reps, which don't love that.
We've been less than pleased with Nimrod's production, but yeah, even Dylan Sampson went down with a hamstring injury of some sort. I think Squirrel might have stepped on him, or the announcers maybe thought it was a cramp or something. So we don't have any information yet, so we're not sure. But and again, you hope that it's a lot of that stuff was precautionary when they came out of the game, or Brew didn't even play in the game, because it was, like you said, during pre-game warm-ups that he had an injury flare up. And so gosh, yeah, we've got plenty of time to get healthy, but we got to get healthy for the playoffs. because you need those receiving weapons, and that's, I guess, my biggest worry. Other than coming out flat like we did in the beginning of the game, my biggest worry is the injuries, right? Because we said, hey, we need to beat Vanderbilt, but just like with UTEP, we need to beat them and stay healthy. And so now it's like, man, are we actually healthy? So I hope we are, but. Let's talk just real quick. Let's get it out of the way. What did happen in the beginning of the game? I mean, shoot, it was just was it luck on Vanderbilt's part? Was it, to me, it kind of seemed like, again, that we came out flat like we have in so many games this season. And so that remains a bit of a concern. I think my primary concern is still penalties, but still coming out kind of flat in these games. We're not going to be able to, especially, we'll get into playoff scenarios maybe a little bit later on the show, but especially on Tuesday. If we play Ohio State either in Columbus, or if Ohio State comes down to Knoxville, we can't start out flat, against these high caliber teams.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, it's kind of hard to say. It really, frankly, that 14-0 lead was very fluky. I mean, you don't typically give up kick return touchdowns, but as I mentioned earlier, the dude, every time we kicked to the dude, he was having big returns. So, again, just don't kick to him. Just don't. So, it's special teams are interesting because, it's very well documented. I'm not the biggest believer in special teams, but when you have such a huge swing in the beginning of the game like that, you spot a team 7 points. Special teams can be really big. So my thing with special teams, you just can't screw it up, dude. Just don't make it a problem. If you give up a kick return touchdown and start the game, that's a problem. That means your special teams are a problem. As long as our special teams are average, then I think it'll be fine. And they haven't really been that leaky this year. It's not like one of those things that I feel like it's been an issue all season. So I don't really expect it to be a problem. Who knows? Maybe it's just like all of a sudden we suck at kick return defense, but I don't know. In my opinion, it's mostly fluky. Now, again, there might be something psychological with DeSamp too, because he just fumbled. Like, I had to go back and look. It's at least the Alabama and the Vandy game he fumbled in the first drive. It might be another game as well. I'm not exactly sure. But anyways, as long as Dylan Sampson doesn't fumble in the beginning of the game, again, that 14-0 lead never happens. And outside of that, we just dominated the game, dude. I think we doubled their yardage. I think we had over 500 yards of offense. So, but you're right though. I mean, at the end of the day, there's no more Vanderbilts in the playoffs. Okay, there's no more of those kind of teams. So we can't come out and get down 14-0 to a team like Ohio State or a team like Penn State or Georgia or whoever we play in the first round. We can't get down to a team like that because we will lose the game. It's not an if. We're not coming back against great teams like that. But I will say, dude, the encouraging thing in the game to me, outside of getting down to 14-0, which again I believe is mostly fluky. That was mostly a fluky start to the game. It was our most complete game. I mean, if you take out the first 5 minutes of the game and you just look at the rest of the game, which, again, you can't do. The first 5 minutes count. But for 55 minutes of that game, we were dominant. I mean, defensively, offensively. I mean, it was really the first. Outside of the Kent State, UTEP games, I don't count those games. The real competition, like our SEC competition, even the NC State game, I feel like this was the first game offensively. We were explosive. I mean, we were explosive. We were hitting those explosive plays, and Nico was elite in this game. Outside of the one bad interception he had, I mean, really, I don't know if his deep ball is just dead. I don't know what happened on that deep ball. He just completely threw that. But outside of that, dude, he was so good in this game, and that's super encouraging because there's no better time for the offense to get right, to start being explosive again right before the playoffs. I mean, that is the perfect time to do it. And don't get it twisted. Go back and look at Vanderbilt's scores and their box scores. Their defense has been good. I mean, they have had a good defense. So it's not like it's not like a Kent State s game where we were playing a super inferior opponent and we just dominated that way. No, I mean we were just good in this game offensively, especially the line, dude. I mean the line pass protection wise was possibly their best game pass protection wise. I had to go back and look at some of the grades and stuff, but I mean, just from what I saw, it was the cleanest pocket Nico's had all season. I mean, he really had all day to throw. That's why Nico just completely torched Vanderbilt. He had all day to throw all game. So if they can continue that progression, and again, the competition is a step up, but it's still we weren't able to dominate teams like even on Vanderbilt's level throughout the regular season. So I'm seeing that improvement, and honestly, the defense, dude. Defensively, to me, just looking at it as a whole, they've been so good this year. Like if you take out that one Georgia outlier, man, even in this Vanderbilt game where we gave up 23 or whatever, but 7 of that special teams, another 7 of that the offense gave them the ball at like the 25-yard line. So I mean, dude, the defense is so good, and that's going to be an asset come playoff time.
1,000%. And like you mentioned, what great timing to head into the playoffs with some momentum of a complete game, like you mentioned. Because yeah, absolutely, that was extremely encouraging. Is outside of the very beginning, and that was part of how we came back too, right? Is hey, throughout the whole game, all 4 quarters, first 5 minutes notwithstanding, you played a complete game, and that's how you come back and you take command of that football game and you end up winning in commanding fashion. Like you mentioned, let's not forget common opponent, one of Texas's good wins right now is this Vanderbilt team, according to the likes of ESPN and the playoff committee. Right.
Correct.
And
Well, it
what
was
was the
their
margin
best win before the A&M game. It was literally their best win.
exactly. And their margin of victory against Vanderbilt was like what, 3 or something like that.
Correct. 27 to 24.
There you go. They squeaked by Vanderbilt, right? And so this is no joke of a Vanderbilt team, like you mentioned. It's the competition was there with this Vanderbilt team. It's not an Ohio State. It's not even an Alabama. It's not even though they beat Alabama, funny enough. The talent deficit is still there, but it's a competitive team. And so the fact that we're able to play those 4 quarters is massive. Like you said, going into the heading into the playoffs, having that complete game, and you're absolutely right about the defense. I was going to mention that earlier, man. It's like, you take away the kickoff return, and it's like, and you only gave up, what is that, 17 points, but then again, 7 of that was in garbage time, and then the other 7 was off a fumble, and so it's like, this defense is, I mean, all those points still count, but but the defense is absolutely elite, and man, what a freaking gift that has been to us this year, and something that we were not expecting.
No.
We were not. We expected the defense to be pretty good, serviceable because of the defensive line, but the fact that the linebackers came through, the linebackers were solid, and the fact that the secondary came through and was more than just hot and ready, like we talked about at the beginning of the season, they were good. Has just been such a joy this season to see, and so. Congrats to the team for a 10-2 season, and to end it on such a high note, a complete game. But with that being said, we got work to do in the playoffs, right? And so there was a little bit more chaos this past week in rivalry weekend. Again, oh man, I wish Georgia Tech had gotten the job done, but they didn't. They were close though, but Ohio State loses to Michigan, their rival. Austin and I, a little fun Vol Talk factoid, a little trivia for y'all. But Austin and I probably consider the Michigan Wolverines kind of our secondary team. Our dad is from Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti specifically. And so we like the Wolverines. We like the Big Blue. So we like to see them, especially beat Ohio State. They pulled that off. And so that was one victory that should help us get closer to or one outcome, I should say, of a game that should help us get closer to a home playoff game, right? And South Carolina beat Clemson, and then Syracuse beat Miami. And so, multiple paths now for us to continue to climb up these rankings. The AP poll dropped today. We were 6. And so, we'll see what the playoff committee does, but a lot of opportunity for us to host a playoff game now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll get into all that on Tuesday. I have my questions about whether we'll host or not, but it's possible. We'll see. But yeah, man, I mean, just kind of talking about our team going in. It is a great season. It is the 10-2 was a great year. I think we still left that Arkansas game on the table, but it still overall was a really good season. I think the team has exceeded our expectations, but I mean, you talked about the defense coming through for us this year, dude. I mean, listen, I don't, we're not 10-2 without this defense. That's a fact. This defense has won us games, and going into playoff time, dude, that is just going to be so massive. It's colder in December, obviously. You know, Mr. Weather guy right here. It's colder in December, people, and college football is played outdoors. So guess what? It's going to be really important to have a good defense, because having a good defense in the cold means a lot in football. Okay, the offenses are going to be less explosive. It's going to be a more. That's why when they say playoff football is played a little slower, a little bit more defense, a little bit more running the ball, because it's cold out. That's one of the reasons that they say that in the playoffs. So when it gets a little bit colder outside, we're going to have to lean on the defense. And guess what? We have a really good defense, possibly one of the best defenses in the field of 12 that we'll have. So it's going to be a huge asset, man. And it's well documented that we've been able to run the ball pretty well this year. We have DeSamp, who also kind of going back to him too. You talked about the 1,400 yards and everything. I mean, he literally submitted himself as the best running back season in Tennessee history. So excited to see what he can do in the playoffs, though, man. But it's. I mean, I just can't wait to see, because when the game slows down, I think we're built to win that way. I really do. And if Nico can continue this development, continue just like where he's going, man, and he can be elite, it's going to be fun, dude. It's going to be fun, because I think, especially if we get this home game, dude, we can make some noise.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you and I both agree, and any Vol fan would agree, that this team can play with anybody. When going back to your point about this being a full 4 quarters of football against Vanderbilt, when this team puts a full game together, this team can play with anybody, right? When this defense is as dominant as it has been, Georgia game notwithstanding, and then, like you said, Nico starts to play elite. And the offensive line, again, man, the offensive line has been the thorn in our side, which was one of the position groups we thought was going to be most solid coming into the season, and it has kind of been one of the bigger letdowns this season. Not to say that they've been horrendous, but they have been not what we hoped they would be. But this game they come up huge, like you said. And so if they can continue to come through, and just every position group and individual players again continue to respond and make big plays, then this team can play with anybody. And like you said, we can make some noise, 1,000%, dude. Anyone who doesn't think that, now granted, this is a 12-team playoff and there's a lot of good teams in this playoff, right? So there's several teams that could make some noise, right? And you've got teams at the top, namely Oregon, who are just, they're undefeated still. It's obviously they are good teams, but the fact remains is that we're going to be able to play with them if this team can take this momentum from this Vandy win and play like they did against Vanderbilt and play like that in the playoffs. Then absolutely we can play with anybody. So I'm looking forward to it, man. And we're going to see on Tuesday night. Like you said, we've got some questions about what's going to actually happen. People are going back and forth on where Ohio State's going to land. Again, I'm maintaining my BVS and my slight pessimism. I think we're going to get disfavorable looks compared to some other teams who are going to get favorable looks. Maybe I'm just trying to psychologically prepare myself. But it's gonna, one way or another, dude. It's gonna be another fun show on Tuesday when we do that live reaction to the playoff rankings.
Did you see the AP poll and the coaches poll both have us ranked ahead of Ohio State?
They do. They do. I saw that. And again, that's going to be the question, right? Because the committee's going to look at Ohio State and they're going to see, okay, Ohio State has wins against 2 top 10 teams right now, Indiana and Penn State. But then the question becomes, do Indiana and Penn State deserve those rankings outside? Because what is their strength of schedule, right? It's like there's so many layers to this transitive properties, right? It's like, okay, Ohio State has 2 wins against top 10 teams, but then you look at those 2 top 10 teams and they don't have any wins against any top 25 teams. It's like, it's a tough. I get it. It's tough to figure these rankings out, but yeah, man, we'll see. We're number 6 in the AP and the coaches, and so we'll see where we land in the playoff committee rankings. But I'm cautiously I'm kind of pessimistic, but I'm kind of cautiously optimistic as well.
So I got a couple things got to shout out, or at least one thing. So I talked about Nico's development and I've been saying on the podcast for weeks now, dude, he's been a different player since the second half of the Alabama game. He's literally just been a different player. It's a very clear line in the sand. Nico before the first half of the Alabama game and after the first half of the Alabama game. And I have some stats to back that up. So Nico's stats through the Chattanooga game and first half of Alabama. Okay, so that's literally the start of the season to after the first half of the Alabama. He went 101 for out of 167. That's a 60.4 completion percentage for 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns, 4 picks, 48 rushes for 145 yards and 1 rushing TD since the second half of the Alabama game. Okay, so that's second half of the Alabama game till now. Second half, he went 98 for 146. That's a 67% completion rating. That's 7% higher. 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. And he also has 186 rushing yards, so that's like 40 more rushing yards as well. It's been a completely different player, dude. He's been more efficient. He's throwing less interceptions and more touchdowns. He's just been a completely different player. And even in the Georgia game, which he didn't have his best game in that game, I thought he was a bright spot compared to everyone else on the offense. So, and I will say this until the day I die, because I know it's a fact. The quarterback position is the most important position in football by far. It's the most important position in sports. It is literally the only position in sports that has to know what everyone on the field is doing at any given time. Has to read it post-snap, read it pre-snap. The quarterback is everything. And if our quarterback can play like he has been, and continue his development, and continue to be elite, okay, this team can win a national championship. I truly believe that. And if we get a home game, which it's very well documented, okay, on this podcast, and if you're a Vol fan, you know, Josh Heupel is different on the road versus at home. He is elite at home. He's lost 1 home game in 3 seasons. And that was against number 1 undefeated powerhouse Georgia. Okay, we're not going to be playing any team like that 2023 Georgia team, by the way. Trust me, in the first round, it ain't going to happen. None of these teams are as close to as good as that team. Plus, newsflash, the 2024 Vols are much better than the 2023 Vols. So my point being, if we can squeak out a home game, which we're going to debate that on Tuesday's show, I'm skeptical of it, Blake's skeptical of it, nobody knows. But if we get a home game round 1, this team can go on to win a national championship. I truly believe that, because we'll have a home game, and then we'll be playing on neutral sites. And dude, Josh Heupel's record in neutral site games, pretty good. I mean, the most consequential game he played on a neutral site was in Miami, Florida, in the Orange Bowl, and he blew out Dabo Swinney's Clemson. So Heupel, I'm telling you, not having to go on the road in the playoffs, dude, could be massive, especially since I think this team could be hitting their peak. So I'm optimistic going into the playoffs, man. I'm excited.
I hope we're hitting our peak, man. That would be the perfect timing. By the way, yours truly, the two of us were in attendance for that beatdown of the of Clemson, the Clemson Tigers, and in that bowl game in Miami. It's a fun time, good trip. But you, dude, you're. I mean, there's nothing else to add. I think you're absolutely right. It's great to see Nico develop. You know, and that's what we hoped he would do, is continue to get better. And so I hope he's just continuing to get better, right? But this offensive line needs to continue to protect him well, so he can have that time to make great plays. We need to clean up the penalties still, but the offensive line, you know, if they protect Nico and Nico continues to make these huge plays, defense continues to play like they're playing, man, and then exactly like you said, you know, watch out if we do have a home game the first round, because we're pretty, in that case, we're going to be pretty solid to get to the second round, and then from there on out, from there on out, it's anybody's
And
field, right?
and Blake, we're still starving as Vol Nation, baby. We're not sad. Hey, we ain't satisfied with beating Alabama. We expect to beat Alabama now. For, by the way, Alabama, just understand that you're now our little brother. We're back. We expect to win that game. So we are starving, dude. Don't think we ain't done yet, bro. If we get that game in Neyland, it's going to be electric. It's going to be electric. It's going to be and I would love for Ohio State to come to Neyland. Oh, man. I'm going to be in that stadium, dude, and trust me. Vol Talk, it might have to be a solo show, because my voice is going to be gone. My voice is going to be cooked, dude.
We're gonna have to be like Stephen Hawking, you know, have a computer talk for us. You know, we're gonna type in our words and Vols beat Ohio State. You know,
we are not. Listen, all I'm trying to say is we are not complacent as Vol Nation for making the playoffs. We are starved for a championship, dude. We are literally skeletons, just starving. Okay, we want it so bad. So
because that's where the trophy belongs, and that's where the trophy belongs, dude. Is in Knoxville, and you know, like to your point. You know, people talking about, Alabama is the Super Bowl. No, Alabama is the third Saturday in October, and that's a stepping stone to a national championship. Okay, so that's where we expect to be, and that's where we're at now, is competing for that national championship. And listen, Tony V, shout out to Tony V and the baseball team. You know, they're giving us some life, you know, with that national championship in baseball. But dude, Knoxville will see apocalyptic level tomfoolery and shenanigans if the Tennessee Volunteers bring a national championship home in football.
correct.
This fan base is literally the most passionate fan base. We are the most passionate fans in the country, and so, man. But here we are. Though it's where we want to be. We're in the mix. So, any final thoughts, Austin, on the Vanderbilt game and where we're sitting after Vandy week?
Nope. Thank goodness we got it done, or else this show wouldn't be happening. I would be done, dude. I would be pissed. I'm so happy we won. So we're into playoffs, baby.
Yeah, the longevity of the Vol Talk podcast was in question after that first 5 minutes. But man, we came back, we came through, and we ended up beating Vandy 36-23. So what a great win for the Tennessee Vols. And as Austin said, man, let's buckle up. And all 42 of you that are subscribed, and the few who watch when, even though you're not subscribed, man, buckle up, because we're going to be having fun on the podcast as we check out our playoff seeding the next couple weeks. Let me give you all a roadmap. So we're going to do the Tuesday show, the live reaction. We're going to bring in Dakota again, right, for a live reaction to the playoff rankings dropping. Join us for that. It's going to be a lot of fun, as usual on those live shows. And then from there, like Austin said, we've got a few weeks to the playoffs until the playoffs start. So what we'll probably do is obviously we're going to drop a show once the final rankings come out and the final seeding comes out, and we'll do it. And then obviously once we know our opponent, we'll do a preview show for that. And so expect at least one episode per week until the playoff game happens. If not 2 episodes per week, still, like we've been doing. So we're going to be dropping content. There's going to be plenty to talk about. Don't worry, y'all know that. Plenty of scenarios to go over, and plenty of previewing, and plenty of anxious excitement to have until the playoffs come. So join us for that. We thank y'all for joining us for this episode, reviewing the Tennessee Vols beating Vanderbilt Commodores 36-23. And we will see you all on Tuesday for the live reaction show to the playoff rankings. We'll talk to y'all then. See ya.
GBO.